The anime begins with a boy named Haruto, and Haruto will move from the city he lives in and go to his lover to say goodbye to her before he goes. And he promises her that when he grows up he will marry her so that they stay together forever. After that, Haruto grows up and is riding a bus, and he looks at a little girl on the bus. But the bus collides with a train, and everyone on the bus dies. And suddenly, Haruto wakes up in the body of a child in another world, and he keeps remembering some of his memories before he died in the other world. And some people entered, and Haruto works for these people, and they have a big bag. Then Haruto comes out of the place to look for some food because he is hungry, and when he finds some berries and eats them, he remembers his memories from his other world. But he stops thinking and says to himself, I am real now, and I live in this hateful neighborhood until I avenge my mother's death. And then 4 ladies come to him and ask him if he saw a girl with purple hair, but he tells them that he has not seen her. But a girl named Celia approaches him and gently asks him where this girl is, but he tells her that he does not know where she is but gives them some information that can help them search for that girl. And then Celia uses a magic spell to search for the girl, but she finds nothing, and she is surprised that Rio also has magical power, and she thanks him for the information he gave them. Rio rewards him and gives him money. Rio hangs this money on his neck in order to hide it and then runs back to the place where he works. But when he opened the door, a masked man stabbed him with a knife in the chest, but the money saved him from being stabbed. And when Rio looked around, he found everyone killed. And when the masked man approached him to kill him, he heard the voice of a girl calling his name. Then she appears in front of him and tells him that he does not have much time and he have to use his magical power to defend himself. And she approaches him and kisses him in order to increase his power and then disappears. And then Rio stands and repels the blow of the masked man and remembers his fighting skill when he was Haruto and enters into a fight with the masked man when the masked man attacked Rio again. Rio was able to knock him down and knock him unconscious. Then Rio hears a voice from the bag that the men brought at first. And when he opened the bag, he found what he expected, which is that purple-haired girl that the ladies were looking for. And the girl cries and begs him to save her and tells him to take her to the palace and her father will reward him. Then the girl sees one of the murdered men and loses consciousness from the scene. Then Rio carries her to take her back to the palace, and on his way, the ladies see him. One of them comes to him and slaps him, and she thinks that he lied to them and that he is the one who kidnapped the girl. One of the ladies raises her sword and puts it on Rio's neck, and the name of this lady is Vancha. Rio tells them that he saved her and not kidnapped her, but Vancha insists that she take Rio with them to the palace until the girl wakes up to tell them everything and make sure of his words. Then the city police come to the place where the girl was located, and they arrest the man who was defeated by Rio. But there was a man standing among the people who took out a red stone and broke it, and when he did, the man they captured died. And that man leaves the place and goes. After that we go to the palace, and the deputy commander of the Royal Guard Knights, whose name is Charles, he is torturing Rio and wants Rio to admit that he is complicit in the kidnapping of that girl. And we know that the kidnapped girl is the princess of the kingdom, and her name is Flora. But Rio insists that he did not participate in the kidnapping of the princess, and then Flora wakes up and knows that Rio saved her, but he is being investigated now, and she says she wants to meet Rio, and Vancha goes to get permission from the king. Then we return to Rio, and the commander of the knights, Charles, tortures Rio strongly to admit that he contributed to the kidnapping of the princess, but Rio denies this, so Charles continues to torture him, and one of the guards tells him that if he continues to torture him, he will die. We conclude that Charles does all this until he finds someone to blame him for the kidnapping of the princess, because he is responsible for protecting her and the members of the royal family, and Celia and Fancy suddenly intervene on them, and they are shocked by Rio's condition and what Charles did, and she tells him that he saved the princess, and then they take him down and approach Celia to treat him with healing magic, and after Rio improves, he wakes up and finds Celia next to him, and when he asks where he is, Celia tells him that he is in the royal palace. Celia apologizes to Rio for what the deputy commander of the guard did, Charles, did, and tells him that he got permission to meet the king in order to express his gratitude for saving the princess. Then, Rio asks Celia to teach him the manners of the interview so that he can behave well when he meets the king. Celia agrees, And the day comes to meet Ryo with the king and the royal family. And when he entered Ryo, everyone was shocked by his appearance and his behavior. The king rewards Ryo by saying that he will study at the Royal Academy, and Celia is a teacher at the academy because of her intelligence despite her young age, and Celia knows the students to Ryo. But the students are angry about the presence of Ryo because he is from the poor neighborhoods, and Ryo introduces himself and tells the students that he went to this academy thanks to the generosity and kindness of the king and hopes that everyone will treat him positively. But one of the students bullies him and everyone laughs. And then Ryo sits in his seat, and the teacher Celia gives them a mathematical problem to solve, and she tells Ryo not to pressure himself because it is his first day, and everyone thinks that Ryo will not be able to solve that mathematical problem. After the end of the school day, Ryo goes to Celia to learn to read, and when he enters her room, he finds the place chaotic, and Celia apologizes to him for the mess in the place. Ryo shows a lot of books and tells Celia that she looks young. Celia tells him that she is 12 years old and should have attended primary school. But she skipped many years and graduated from high school and became a teacher at the academy. And Ryo is amazed by Celia's intelligence. And Celia gives Ryo some multiplication and division problems to solve, and all Ryo's answers are correct. And Celia is surprised by his answers and tells him that no one can solve these mathematical problems in his class other than Princess Christina. And Princess Christina, she is the older sister of Princess Flora. But this is self-evident to Ryo, because he remembers some of his memories when Haruto was a university student, and Celia asks him where he studied arithmetic, and Ryo tells her that his deceased mother taught him, and then Celia prepares some tea. And Ryo asks her about some books to learn the letters, and Celia nominates some books for him to learn from. And then the students are in the knight's class, and the teacher notices Ryo's agility in using the sword, and says he can attack him in any way he sees fit. And everyone is surprised by Ryo's situation, and Ryo remembers his training when Haruto was. The attack on the teacher begins, and Ryo's skill is very high and everyone is surprised by it, and the teacher tells Ryo that he will become a great knight. But Ryo tells him that he does not want to join the knights and thanks him for his kind words. And then Ryo is studying hard because of the approaching date of the exams. And the exam date comes and Ryo begins to solve the questions. And when Ryo comes out of the exam and sees everyone together, he remembers his childhood when it was Haruto. And the name of this girl is Ayase Haru. And when Haruto's parents separated, they both parted, but they met in high school. But Ayase disappeared, and they never met again. The day of the exam result comes, and Ryo is the first in his class, along with Princess Christina. And everyone is surprised by the result. When Ryo arrived, the boys accused him of using a trick and cheating in the exams. But one of the students defends him and tells them that there is no evidence of cheating. And Celia comes after her and tells them that Ryo worked hard and was studying hard, and she testifies to that. But a boy named Alphonse tells them that he will not accept it and leaves them. He goes and Celia congratulates Ryo on getting first place in the exams, but she is worried because of the bullying of the sons of nobles on him. But Ryo reassures her and tells her that he is not interested, and Ryo asks her if she was also bullied because she was a genius. Celia tells him that she was also bullied, but she had friends. But Ryo tells her that he owns you. So Celia is ashamed of his words, and Ryo tells her that if she encounters a problem one day, advise me as my teacher and friend. And then the two spend quality time together. And 5 years pass, and the students are in the knight's class. And the teacher tells them that he will choose students from them to participate in an exhibition competition against the knights of the kingdom. And the teacher chooses Alphonse and another boy named Stuart and Ryo. But Alphonse objects to choosing Ryo to participate in the competition, because he is a commoner and cannot use magic. But the teacher says that he will not accept any objections. And then Ryo sits with Celia, and she tells him that if you will do well in the competition, the writers will choose you before you graduate. And Ryo will be taller than before, and Celia will be happy that 5 years have passed and they are friends. And ask him Celia what will he do when he graduates, since he does not want to become a knight. Ryo tells her that he wants to visit his father's place of upbringing as his mother promised him when he was young. Celia is sad that he will leave her, and she tells him to work here because he has a way of arranging the place that makes it clean. He also prepares delicious tea. But Rio thanks her and tells her that your marriage will be discussed soon and that it is not good to have a person from the public in your research laboratory. The day of the competition comes, and the referee is a knight named Alfred Emerald, and he is very popular in the kingdom. And the first challenge begins between Rio and a knight named Charles. And Charles is the one who tortured Rio when he was young. And because of Charles' torture to Rio, his rank is down. The two want revenge and start fighting. And Rio can beat Charles. And everyone is surprised by his style of fighting. And then Charles sits with a man, and he is very angry because of his defeat. And he tells him that this boy was involved in the kidnapping of Princess Flora 5 years ago. And the man sitting with him is the same one who killed the man who attacked Rio in the beginning. And after the competition, Rio's fame increases in the academy, and the girls start giving him messages of admiration. And Celia sees it all and is very moved. After that, Celia forms the students' plans after graduation and finds Rio the only one who did not write his plans. And we go to the academy. Celia teaches students how to use magic, but Alphonse interrupts her words and says that everyone can use magic except for one person, and he means Rio. Celia asks him to use magic, he and Stuart, but their magic is weak. And Celia uses lightning magic, and her magic is very strong, and all students are surprised. And Rio happy with what Celia did. Rio can't use ordinary magic, but he can use magic called Spirit's Art. And after the class ends, Stuart goes and praises the magic of teacher Celia. And when Rio is on his way out, Stuart stops him and accuses him of seducing female students. But Celia tells him that he cannot accuse anyone without evidence. But Stuart tells her that he tried to flirt with her too, but she denies that Rio did it. And before Stuart goes, he tells Rio that if he does anything, Yukyogno's house won't stay silent. And then Rio goes, and Princess Flora sees all that, and she's sad that she can't return Rio's favor when he saved her. And then the students have hands-on training, and their leader in the training is Alphonse, and he tells them that they have to go out of the forest and arrive at sunset, but he got a shortcut to arrive at noon, and he got that way from one of the servants in Stuart's house. And when they go, Stuart tells Rio to carry everyone's things, because he will be an obstacle for them because he cannot use magic. And Rio agrees because he does not want to create problems with anyone. And Flora goes to him and offers to carry the things with him, but Rio thanks her and continues his way. And on their way, he appears in front of them are some monsters named Goblin, and those monsters are weak. And Alphonse tells them to use tools to enhance their physical abilities, and students can easily overcome the monsters. And Rio is not interested in what is happening because he feels that someone is watching him, and there is actually someone watching Rio. And he is the same man from the kidnapping incident, and he is surprised that Rio noticed his presence from that great distance. And the students come out of the forest, but the road is at the end of it a slope, and the road they got is a wrong road. And suddenly monsters called orcs attack them, and they are strong monsters. And one of the spears hits Stuart in his foot and pushes him one of the students and collides with Princess Flora, and she falls from the top of the cliff. But Rio jumps behind her, and he can save her with his magic, and the students can defeat the monsters but difficulty. And then Stuart says that Rio is the one who pushed him on Princess Flora to exonerate himself, and the boys agree on that story. And Rio hears everything and knows that he cannot graduate from the academy because when he returns he will be accused of trying to kill the princess, and the students have abandoned Rio. But Flora stops them and tells them that she will look for Rio even if she goes alone, because she thinks that he is injured from falling from the top of the cliff. Suddenly they hear a voice from the forest, and a very strong monster appears, and the students are terrified of the monster, and they attack the monster. But all attacks are in vain because it is very strong, and the monster defeats all the students, and the students run away from it, except for Flora because one of the students is injured and she was trying to treat him. And when the monster is going to eliminate Flora, Rio appears and cuts off the monster's arm with one blow. Rio enters into a fight with a monster. Rio can defeat the monster and cut off his head easily, and the students come to check on Flora, and Rio leaves them and goes without anyone seeing him. And that man is still watching Rio, and he is the one who made the monster attack the students in order to test Rio's strength and be amazed by his strength. And then Celia is on her way to the king, and she hears Stuart and his father talking about Rio and placing the blame on him for what happened in training. But the king knows that Rio is a good boy, but he supports them because the strength of the royal family is currently weak, and tells him that he leaves the rest on him. And Celia is sad because of what she heard, because she does not know what happened. And at night, Rio goes to Celia, and Celia is very worried about Rio. And then they sit down and Rio tells her about everything that happened, and Celia is angry with what she heard, but Rio tells her that he will go and thank her for his help and interest in him all those years, and tells her that he will write to her constantly but with a fake name. He is Haruto. And Celia says goodbye to him and tells him that she will wait for him to come back again and wait for his messages. And then Rio goes, and Celia is crying hard because Rio is gone. And 3 days have passed since Rio goes, and he arrives at a city called Amond in a neighboring kingdom. He checks his picture among those wanted for justice in the kingdom, but he does not find his name and continues his way. Rio feels that someone is watching him, but he does not find anyone. And Rio goes to try the food of that city, and try the pasta dish. And it is the first time for Rio to see this dish in this world, because he used to see it in memories of Haruto. Rio admires pasta very much when trying it, and after Rio finishes eating, he goes to buy some food to complete his journey. A cute girl named Lottie receives him, and tells him that it is not allowed to carry swords in the place. So Rio gives her his own sword. Lottie is surprised by Rio's black hair because there is only one village far away only they have black hair. And then Lottie helps him buy the resources he wants. Then they sit and drink tea. And Rio gives her a message to deliver to Celia. Rio writes in the letter everything he went through in the city. Then Rio leaves the city, and the girls admire the character of Rio. On his way, he finds a girl lying on the ground, so he goes to help her. And when Rio approaches her, the girl shoots a poisoned needle at Rio and attacks him. This girl is half human, and she wants to kill Rio. And they enter into a strong fight. The girl is amazed at Rio's speed. Rio is finally able to defeat the girl. The girl's eye color suddenly changes. She cries hard and begs him not to kill her. Rio loses the girl consciousness in order to calm down, and Rio notices the presence of a collar on the girl's neck. And this collar is to control the girl by magic. Rio remembers that he read in a book about how to invalidate the magic of the collar. Then Rio can untie the collar from the girl's neck. The girl is sleeping and remembers that she was in the same bus that Haruto was in. And when she died, she woke up and found herself in this body and tortured by another boy, and this boy is Stuart. When the girl wakes up, she finds herself tied up. Rio tells her that he untied the cordon that made her obey orders. So the girl cries hard, and Rio asks her who sent her. The girl says that her master is named Stuart. Then Rio concludes that Stuart's father sent her to kill him, and Rio asks her if he sent someone else to kill him, but the girl does not know. And Rio unties the girl's chains and tells her that she is now free even if she does not want returning to her master. There is a place where people like her live in the east called the wilderness. Then he tells her that if she attacks him again, he will kill her and continue on his way. But the girl keeps walking behind Rio and tells him that she wants to accompany him and regrets what happened. But Rio tells her that he does not trust her and asks her how to ensure that she will not attack him again. So the girl takes out the collar and tells him to put it on her neck, and tells him that she feels lonely and afraid. So Rio agrees to accompany him and tells her to get rid of this collar, and then asks her for her name, and she says her name is Latvia. And then they continue their way together. Then they sit down to eat, and Rio prepares her a sandwich, and Latvia eats quickly and cries because the food is delicious, and her master used to feed her animal food. Then they continue their way, and Latvia gets tired of walking, so Rio stops to camp in the place. Then we go to Celia, and Rio's message has reached her. She is happy as she reads the letter. At night, Rio prepares pasta, and Latvia knows what it is, and Rio asks her if she ate it before, and she tells him that she used to eat it in the past. And Rio feels that Latvia is also from the world of Haruto. And when they go to sleep, Latvia cries while she is sleeping, and Rio sleeps next to her to reassure her. And Latvia says while she is sleeping that she wants to go home in Tokyo. So Rio makes sure that Latvia is also from the same world as Haruto. In the morning, Latvia looks at Rio's face. She also feels that it is the same person from the bus. And when Rio wakes up, she asks him if he doesn't mind that she calls him Oni-chan. This means her big brother. Rio thinks about everything Latvia went through and that she feels lonely, and this is what will make her happy and agree. and then they continue on their way. And when they reach a place close to the wilderness, they camp to rest from the road. At night, Latifa was sleeping and dreaming of a nightmare. So Ryo used magic on her to calm down, and when he came out of the tent, he found a large wolf in front of him. Then a strong light came out of the wolf and then disappeared. And the light was magic, so that Ryo temporarily lost his sight. Then, some girls attacked Ryo, but he used the art of spirits to know from which direction they would attack him, and the girls were surprised by his use of the art of spirits. But Ryo knows from their language that they are half human, and he tells them that he wants to talk to them, but the girls are hesitant but agree in the end. And one of the girls approaches Ryo to talk to him, but two girls from her group find Latifa, and they think that Ryo kidnapped her, and one of the girls attacks Ryo, and Ryo tries to explain the situation to them, but they do not believe him, and they can lose Ryo consciousness. Ryo dreams of the girl who appeared to him at the beginning and asks her who she is. She does not know, and when she calls him Haruto, he knows that she knows everything about him, and Ryo asks her how to know everything about him, and she tells him that she is connected to him and that it is still early and that their time is over. And then she hugs him and disappears. And then Ryo also dreams of his childhood friend and keeps calling her name until one of the girls wakes him up. And then the village sage enters and apologizes to him for what happened, and she wants to hear from Ryo the story of Latifa. And the girls also apologize to Ryo for what happened. Then the village wise takes Ryo, and she is surprised that he sees the big tree because no one can see it except good users of spirit art, because around it is a barrier made of high-level spirit art. And she asks him where he learned the art of spirits, and Ryo tells her that he learned it by himself. And then they go to the council of elders, and the wise men introduce themselves to Ryo. And this wise person is Sheldora, and this wise Ursula, and this dwarf Dominic. And the village is where multiple races of users of the art of spirits live. And the wise men thank Ryo for saving Latifa and apologize to him for what happened. And they ask him if there is anything to compensate him for what happened from the girls. So Ryo asks to keep Latifa in the village, and he also asks to stay with her until she gets used to the place because she is related to it. And they are surprised because they would have asked the same thing. And they are happy because Ryo is a nice and polite person. And suddenly a girl appears, and she is the soul of the sacred big tree named Dorois, and she approaches Ryo and feels that there is a spirit contracted with her inside him. But Ryo does not know anything, and she tells him that because he has a soul inside him, he cannot use magic like other humans. So Ryo makes sure that her words are true, and Dorois approaches Ryo to know the power of the spirit inside him, and is surprised by the amount of energy inside him, and tells him that there is a spirit in the form of humans sleeping inside him. And everyone is surprised from what they knew. Dorois says that only second order and higher spirits can take the form of human beings, and that they are second-class spirits. But the spirit inside is one of the 6 great spirits, and that all those spirits have disappeared since the war of the divine beasts 1,000 years ago. And after what they knew, the wise wanted to treat Ryo as a saint. And then one of the girls took him to the house where he would stay. And Latifa was very happy with the house and took Ryo on a tour. And then they sat down to eat. Then one of the girls tells him that she and the other girls will live with him in the same house. And Ursula comes and tells Ryo that she ordered it so that Latifa gets closer to the girls. And on the other hand, the girls care about him. And then Ryo spends his time training and developing his spirit art. And Latifa is very enjoying her time. And a year passes and the date of the Great Spirit Festival comes in the village. And everyone in the village celebrates it. And on the other hand, the evil man rides a griffin with another boy, and then they enter a cave, steal a dragon's egg, and escape. And on their way to escape, the dragons chase them. Then we go back to the village. Ryo and Latifa will take the blessing with the kiss of the tree spirit. And everyone is happy in the village, and all the girls are very attached to Ryo. Then we go to the bad guy. He gives the boy with the little red stone and leaves it with the egg and the griffin, and tells him to wait for him. Then he lets him go, and this man leaves the boy because he made him bait for dragons, but the boy does not know. And on the other side, Ryo takes Latifa to the forest to tell her that he will leave the village after a while short. And Latifa tells him that she wants to accompany him. But Ryo refuses because he is heading to a place he does not know and there could be danger. Latifa is sad and cries and leaves him and runs. and the spirit of the tree feels the presence of people in the forest. So the wise men send the group of girls to check the place. And the bad guy went to the dragon's cave to steal all the eggs, and all the dragons are chasing the boy with the egg. And this was the evil man's plan from the beginning. Then the girls reach the boy, but he tries to escape from them. And the girls try to stop him because he is heading towards the village. But the dragons appear and attack the boy. And at the same time the bad guy takes out the red stone. And he breaks it, and the boy dies too. And Latifa walks in the forest, sad, and the boy and the egg fall in front of her. And the egg breaks because of its fall. Then a dragon appears in front of Latifa and is very angry because the egg broke. And the village knows what is happening. And when Rio knows what is happening, he worries about Latifa because she is in the forest and runs to look for her. And the dragon attacks Latifa and is about to eliminate her. But one of the girls appears and defends her. But the dragon is very strong and all attacks do not affect him. And Latifa tries to distract the dragon so that it does not reach the village. But the dragon besieges Latifa and is going to eliminate it. And suddenly Rio appears and eliminates it easily. Then the rest of the dragons escape. And the rest of the girls come. And they are surprised by Rio's power because he eliminated the dragon by his hand alone. And then they return to the village. And Latifa regrets leaving Rio because she fled to the forest. But Ryu forgives her and tells her that she is his younger sister now. And Latifa is happy with Rio's words. And she tells him that she wants to tell him something, but she does not know if he will believe her. And she tells him that she was a human and was live in a place called Japan. But Rio tells her that he believes her because he was also Japanese and died. And they make sure that they are the same young man and girl from the bus. And Rio admits to her that he will go to the east to go to the village where his father lived. Then the day of Rio's departure comes, and the village elders and girls bid him farewell. And he thanks them for having received him all that time. And the village elders give him some gifts that will help him in his journey. And the dwarf Dominique gives him a sword on which he can use the art of spirits and a coat made of leather the dragon that killed him. And the wise Ursula gives him some supplies that he needs on his journey. And the wise Sheldora gives him a space-time bracelet. And this bracelet can carry anything inside it. And Rio is reluctant to take the bracelet because it is precious. But the wise men insist that Rio take the bracelet and then take it and say goodbye to Latifa and set off on his journey. When Rio arrives in Yogomo Prefecture, where his father lived, and everyone in the village has black hair like Rio, Rio asks two girls about the location of the village leader, and two girls called Seo and Rory. Rory say that the village leader is her grandmother and will deliver him to her. Then, Rio meets the village leader, whose name is Yuba, and he tells her that he wants to ask her something because she knows most of the people who live in the village. And when they sit down, Rio tells her that his father lived in this village 15 years ago. Then the leader asks him about the names of his parents. And when Rio says Zen and Ayami, the leader is surprised and tells the girls to go out and leave them alone. And the leader asks him what he knows about them. And he tells her that his father died when he was an infant, and he lived a quiet life with his mother until she died when he was 5, and that she always promised him to come to the Yajumo area, and that he wanted to make 2 graves for them as a monument. And then the leader tells him that she knows them well because she is Zen's mother and your grandmother. And then she takes him to the 2 graves and tells him that his parents had to leave the country secretly for some reason. And when Rio asks her why, she tells him that she is not the one who will tell him, and the right day will come for you to know. And she tells Rio to live with her and Rory, his cousin, who is a year older than Rio, until this time comes. And she tells him that she will hide his identity for some time and leave him and go home. Then Rio returns to a house and they are waiting for him to eat dinner. And in the morning Rio prepares breakfast. The grandmother is amazed by Rio's skill in cooking and also for using it for spirit art. And by the way, everyone in the village like Rio cannot use magic like the rest and use the art of spirits. But Rio has great strength because of the spirit inside him. And then comes Seo and her brother Shen, and Grandma knows them to Rio. They sit down for breakfast and are amazed by Rio's amazing cooking. And Grandma tells Shen to take Rio with him to hunt, but Shen underestimates Rio's abilities and bullies him. Then Seo starts to like Rio. And when Rio returned, he was very dirty, so he used spirit's art to make a huge bath to bathe. And then Seo and Rory saw the bathroom and were amazed at what Rio made and the good smell that came out of it. And Shen came with his friends and bullied Rio. But his sister Seo and Rory defended him. And when Shen found his sister angry, he left them and went. And the days passed, and Ryo helped the people in the village, and everyone loved him. And the day of collecting the crop came, and the grandmother asked him to accompany the tax agent to the royal capital to protect the transport team. Ryo gladly agrees. Then they hear a loud voice, and Shen fights with someone named John, and John is the son of the leader of the village next to them, because he was looking at the girls in the bathroom. And Rory asks him what he brought here, and he said that his cart crashed on his way to the royal capital, and John keeps provoking Shen. Then Shen attacked John, but John was strong and caught him easily. The village leader comes and ends this fight and asks John to go to the guest's house, and he is not allowed to leave it. And on his way he finds Ryo in front of him, and kicks him in the foot, but he falls to the ground. So he gets angry and stands up and takes his friends and goes. Then Shen asks Grandma to spend Seo the night with them because they are alone, and if something happens he will not be able to protect her. And at night Ryo gives Seo and Rory a protection amulet that they put in their room. And in the guest house John is sitting and his friends, and we find out that he smashed his cart on purpose because he wants to rape Rory at night, and this is his plan from the beginning. And in the morning the tax agent named Sarga Hayate comes, and then Ryo is practicing and Seo and Rory are watching him. And Rory asks him why he has been training every day since he came to the village. So Ryo returns his clothes and tells them that when he was young there was a girl he loved, and he wanted to become strong to protect her. But now he doesn't know anything about her, and now he trains for himself. Then the tax agent comes out of the bathroom and thanks Ryo for it. And at night John enters the girl's room and grabs Rory and tells Seo if she makes a sound he will kill her. But Ryo appears and hits John's friends, and when he sees John holding Rory, he remembers the death of his mother. Then John attacks him, but Ryo easily signs him and grabs him, and John begs him to leave him. But Ryo hits him in the face hard, and the girls are shocked by the scene. And Sarga comes and stops Ryo because John was about to die. Then Ryo stands alone and says to himself, "This is the second time I would like to kill someone." And in the morning Ryo apologizes for what happened, but everyone is happy with what he did and thanks him and sits down to eat breakfast. Then the Metropolitan Police comes to arrest John and his friends, and Grandma Yuba thanks Hayate for what he did and asks him for a favor, which is to deliver a message to his father personally. And then they reach the royal capital, and he takes Shen and the hunter, Ryo, to try a meal called kamuden, which is delicious and Ryo likes it, and Shin thanks Ryo for what he did, and asks him to take his sister Seo to try kamuden because he will be busy and she wants to try him to bring him in home. Then he takes Ryo Seo to buy her a souvenir from the capital, and Seo is very embarrassed and chooses a hairpin, and the saleswoman tells them that this pin is expensive and that she will give them a discount. But Ryo tells her that he cannot bargain the price of a gift for Miss at all, and when they leave, the saleswoman stops Seo and tell her do what you can to make it yours because there will be intense competition for that young man. And on their way there was a little girl who is kidnapped, but Ryo saves her, and the child's bodyguard comes and thanks him. And when the city guards were on their way he left Ryo because he wanted to avoid problems. Then we go to Hayate and he gives the letter to his father. And when he read it he asked him to meet someone called Ryo. Then they go to Ryo, and he is the father of Hayate is named Joki and his mother is named Kyoto. And they say to Ryo that they were servants in the past for his mother, and that his mother was from the royal family in the Karasuki kingdom. And Ryo is shocked by his words, and he says to Ryo also, 20 years ago the kingdom was at war and his father Zen volunteered to be a soldier. And because of his talent the king gave him the rank of noble warrior. And he fought a fight against him, and because of his amazing skill, I recommended him to be the guard of his mother, Ayami, his son the king. And Ayami admired Zen, and on the day the kingdom was negotiating with the neighboring kingdom to establish a truce, and the prince who came as an ambassador admired Ayami, and tried to kidnap her by his servant, but Zen confronted him and killed him, and that did not like the prince, and stipulated that in order to make the truce, Zen must execute the armistice, and marry Ayami as a political marriage. And the king then made his daughter and Zen run away in secret, and until now no one knows anything about them until I come. And he asks Ryo to come tomorrow to the royal palace to meet the king and queen, and Ryo agrees to that. And then Ryo meets the king and queen, and they are happy to meet their grandson. And then they ask Ryo to tell them everything about his parents, and Ryo tells them that they both died. His father died when he was young, so he did not know him well, and he lived with his mother a happy life, and she cared about him and did not make him feel sad for his father, until she was killed when he age of 5, and the person who killed her, he worked with his father as an adventurer, and his name was Lucius, and he was helping them after his father's death. But one day, his mother went to buy some things and he was at home alone, and when Rio opened the door for him, he hid him and made him drink a kind of from poisons. Then his mother came suddenly, and Lucius killed her, and then he lost consciousness, and the king and queen are affected by the words of Rio, and they ask him how he lived his life after the death of his mother. So he says that when he woke up he found himself in the slums until he was 7 years old, and tells them about the kidnapping of Princess Flora and his studies at the academy and all that. Then the king asks Rio if he intends to avenge his mother, and Rio says that what kept me alive was my thinking of avenging my mother, and that he knows that revenge does not generate anything, and that his mother would not have wanted that, but if he met this person, he would kill him with his own hands. And the king tells him that the path of revenge ends in hell, so do you want to continue? And Rio tells him that he knows this, but he will take revenge, and the king understands Rio's position and tells him that he will not stop him, and he asks Rio to fight Jockey, because he is the most powerful person in the kingdom and neighboring kingdoms. And the king wants this in order to know how strong Rio is so that he does not worry about him, because he suspects that Lucius killed his father as well. And this means that this person is strong. On their way, they meet the little girl who was going to be kidnapped and get to know him, and Jockey knows that Rio saved his daughter. Then the time of the fight comes, and there is a strong fight between the two, and Jockey uses his strongest technology, but Rio avoids it and can defeat him easily, and wins the fight, and everyone is surprised by how strong Rio is, and the king reassures him and asks him if there is something he would like to ask. And Rio says that he has a cousin and wants to tell her about his lineage, and the king gladly agrees, and everyone returns to the village. Rio tells Ruri that he is from the royal family and her cousin, but Ruri thinks he is joking, but the grandmother assured her of Rio's words, and when she learned it, Ruri bowed to Rio because he was from the royal family, but Rio told her to treat him as she treated him before. And Ruri was happy because of Rio's kindness and asked him to treat her also informally because they are relatives now, and Rio agreed. Rio tells them that he will leave next year, and they ask him if he will come back again. Rio tells them that of course he will come back, but he wants to visit somewhere. Days pass and everyone lives a quiet and happy life, and Rio goes to help Seo plant the crop and tells her that he will leave after the harvest feast. When she knows, she's deeply sad, but she does not show it to Rio. Ruri also comes and helps them. When Seo comes home, the first thing she does is cry, and Shin comes and asks her why she is crying, and when she tells him that Rio is going to leave, he knows that his sister loves Rio, so he leaves her and goes to Rio and begs him not to leave the village. Seo comes and takes her brother and apologizes to Grandma and Rio for what Shin did, and they go. The days go by, and Seo is training daily to get stronger. And the day of harvest comes, and everyone is having fun, and Seo comes to Rio and tells him that she wants to talk to him. And then they go to the forest, and Seo confesses to Rio that she loves him. She tells her that she trained for 6 months every day so as not to slow down his progress. But Rio apologizes to her and tells her that he can't reciprocate this feeling, and he leaves her and goes. Rio notices Shin and is saddened by what happened, and Rio leaves and says goodbye to his grandmother and Ruri. On his way to leave, he finds Seo waiting for him at the door of the village, and the leader Juki sees what happened and talks to Seo and convinces her not to be sad if she really loves Rio. He says goodbye to Seo, and then he goes happy. Rio returns to the wilderness and meets Latifa and the girls who welcome him, and then he meets the wise men, and they welcome him back and tell him about his journey and what he discovered. And he tells them that he will stay a few months in the village and tells them that he will build a house to take with him, and he will put it in a space-time bracelet to help him travel. And the dwarf Dominic tells him that he will build this house for him. And Rio comes home, and Rio praises the girls because they became beautiful, and the girls are ashamed of his words, and they have a good time together. And Rio is sleeping and screaming loudly, and the girls come to see what is happening, and they find Rio sleeping with a naked girl, and the girls are shocked by the scene. But Rio tells them it's a misunderstanding, and he doesn't know her. He found her next to him when he woke up.
Rio asks the girl who she is, and she says it's the spirit that contracted with him. She is the same girl who was showing up to Rio, and Rio asks her name, but she doesn't remember anything about herself, so she asks Rio to name her, and Rio discovers that he can communicate with the soul by telepathy. And she tells him that she knows everything about him and Haruto, and then the soul uses the art of spirits to wear clothes, and everyone is amazed by her beauty, and Rio decides to name her Ashia, and the meaning of the name is the warm spring. And the spirit likes the name, so he goes to the village sages to meet the spirit of the tree Dorias and to know why Ashia has lost her memory. Dorias comes and welcomes Ashia and asks her which item she finds herself using. Ashia says all of them. Everyone is shocked because all the spirits can only use one item, and then they go to the arena to know how strong Ashia is, and Rio fights, and she can really use all the items, and she is very strong, and everyone is amazed by her strength. And Dara stops the fight so that the village is not damaged because of their strength. And the Wises welcome the presence of Ashia in the village, after which the dwarf Dominic finishes building Rio's house, and Rio thanks him for building the house. And then comes the day of Rio's departure from the village. The sages give him a magical tool for teleportation, but it is only in one direction, that is, it takes him back to the village only. And they also give him a hairpin that changes the color of his hair because Rio is wanted by the authorities in the kingdom. And then he says goodbye to them and he and Ashia go. And he is on his way to the kingdom, where Celia is, and Celia is at the same time holding Rio's message and wishing to see him again. Rio and Iski reach the city, and Rio notices that the place is crowded. Rio changes his hair color and goes to a store to ask about the cause of the crowding. The saleswoman tells him that there is a wedding procession for a noble family tomorrow, and then they go to the academy to see Celia. When Rio arrived, he found the place empty, and then they went to one of the teachers, and Ashia took control of it. Rio asks him about Celia's whereabouts, and he tells him that Celia is in the royal palace because she will marry Charles from the family of Duke Arbo. Rio is shocked when he knows. He tells him that this is a political marriage because the kingdom was defeated in its last war, and thanks to the contributions of the Duke Arbo's family, they were able to start peace negotiations. Because of that, the king and his family fled the kingdom. In order for the Duke Arbo's family to gain more power, they choose to marry Count Claire's family and Celia's family, and then Rio goes, and Ashia asks what he will do, and he tells her that he wants to talk to Celia to know if she really wants this marriage. Ashia uses her spirit form to find out where Celia is due to the tight security of the palace. Celia is in her room, and she is sad and remembers Rio. Rio enters the room and tells her that he is back, and when she sees Celia, she runs towards him, hugs him, and is happy with his return. Celia asks him about his trip and brings them tea because she misses drinking tea with him. But Rio asks her about her marriage to Charles and if she really wants this marriage. Celia says that she agreed to this marriage herself and that she knows that he has a bad past with Charles. But Rio does not believe Celia's words. Then Celia gets angry and asks him to leave. She tells him that if he doesn't leave and I count to 20, I will scream. But Celia was crying because she didn't really want to marry Charles. She is also happy that Rio is back as promised. But Rio doesn't believe Celia's words and wants to make sure that she really wants this marriage. And the wedding day comes, and Charles meets Celia, and he brings his wives with him, and Charles is married to 6 women, and then Princess Christina comes to congratulate Celia on the marriage. Christina apologizes to Celia because everything is happening because her father fled and the Duke Arbo family took control of the government. Then the procession passes through the city, and Rio is standing next to the people. Celia notices him, and when she sees him, she starts crying. Celia remembers her conversation with Rio and says to herself that she is now just a puppet. But suddenly there is a screaming sound from the soldiers, and Rio runs towards the procession and eliminates the soldiers who confront him. They attack him with magic, but he avoids all of that, and he reaches the carriage that contains Celia and hits Charles. He then takes out a knife and puts it on Celia's neck, and Charles threatens that he will kill him. He uses telepathy with the help of Ashia to talk to Celia, apologizes to her for what is happening, and asks him one last time if she wants this marriage. He tells her that he can put an end to this marriage if her family is threatened by the family of Yukarbo, that she is dear to his heart, and that he does not want to hurt her. He does not want to lose her, and he says that her life will be hell if she completes that marriage. Celia is worried so as not to cause problems for her family, and she asks him what he will do if she tells him that she does not want this marriage. Rio tells her that he will take her to a faraway place and thus not cause problems for her family. Celia is affected by Rio's words and asks him to take her to a faraway place. Rio threatens Charles and tells everyone that he will kidnap his bride, and then Rio escapes carrying Celia. The soldiers try to stop him, and the evil man is there and watching all of this. He suspects that he is Rio, and he attacks her using his magic, but Rio confronts her, and he can escape. The soldiers chase Rio, and he talks to Ashia to meet him, and he leaves Celia with her to escape, and he will distract the guards. Rio fights the guards, but the situation is difficult because he does not want to kill anyone. The captain of the guard, Alfred, appears and enters into a fight against Rio. Alfred uses a powerful sword with a magic spell on it and uses a powerful technique to eliminate Rio, but he avoids it and can escape. Ashia and Celia are somewhere waiting for Rio, and Celia is worried about Rio, but Ashia tells him he's fine and he's on his way here. Then Rio comes and thanks Ashia for his help. Celia thanks him for what he's done. And when they were talking, suddenly a strong light appeared from the sky in many places. Ashia told Rio to go to the light for help, and the light was showing some people, and almost all were also from Japan. But a gang comes and kidnaps them, and Rio arrives at the gang, and when he hears a voice calling for help in Japanese, he kills the gang members, opens the car and frees them, and goes to free those in the second car. When the carriage door opened, Rio stood there, shocked to find Ayase, his childhood friend, and she thanked him for saving her.
If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the like and write your opinion in the comments.